Hi everyone. In this video, I want to discuss a specific use case that you can implement with NiFi and how to properly do it with batch configuration that is available at the level of process group. 4 years ago, I wrote a blog post. I will put the link into the description of this video that was talking about the wait notify pattern to process files where you need to split a file into multiple childs, do things on childs, and then merge back things together and do something based on how the processing on the childs was. That's the really high-level use case. You have a file that you are going to split into many files. Those smaller files are going to be processed individually, and maybe one of those files is going to fail, and because of that, you want to have a specific handling on the original file that is containing all of the smaller files. If we talk about a real use case, we could say, I receive a zip file that is containing many files, and I want to run some process on all of the files that are contained in the zip file. It could be antivirus scan, it could be some specific processing, whatever. And then, depending on the processing on those small files, and if you have like a specific result on one of those files, maybe the original zip file that you have should be processed in a specific way. Should be sent to quarantine, for example, if a virus has been detected in one of those files. Okay, so 4 years ago, I described such a use case and how to do some NiFi monitoring around it, and it was using the wait notify pattern. Wait and notify are two processors available in NiFi, but those processors can be quite complicated to use. So instead, probably 2 years ago now, something like that, we introduced the concept of batch configuration at the process group level. That is removing the need for wait notify in such use cases. So that's what I want to show you today. So I'm going to take the antivirus use case. So here on the left here, I'm just going to generate a zip file that is containing a bunch of files, and then I'm going to do my antivirus scanning in this process group. So very quickly, if I walk you through the flow, here I'm doing a generate flow file with 50 flow files being generated, 10 KB each, and then here the merge content is configured to create a zip file. That's all. It's just to generate a zip file containing a bunch of files and simulate what I need for my use case. Now, this flow file is going to get into this antivirus scanning process group. In this process group, I'm doing something very simple. I'm doing the unpack content here. So one flow file is going to generate 50 flow files because I have 50 files in my zip file. The original zip file is going here in the original relationship. Failure is in case something happens and the zip file is malformed and I'm not able to unpack it. For all of the small files contained in the zip file, I'm going to use invoke HTTP to call some API that is exposed by my antivirus. It could be anything you want here. It's basically the processing you want to do on the small files. In my case, I imagine that I'm calling an external API, but you can do whatever you want, okay? In case there is something wrong here, I will send this to the failure antivirus output. For the flow file, for which I got an answer from my external API, I'm doing a root on attribute because I expect the API to send me back an answer that is containing an attribute through headers. This is how I'm going to say, yes, this file is a virus, this file is not a virus, okay? So I'm assuming that my external API is going to set a virus attribute on my flow files, and I'm checking if this attribute is true or false. If this is a virus, I'm sending this to the output port virus detected. If it's not, I'm sending this to the no virus process group. That's really it. I don't have an antivirus API with me, so I'm just going to use NiFi to simulate this. So here I have a flow that is exposing an endpoint with NiFi so that I can simulate my HTTP API that will be my antivirus system. Okay, so here in this case, I just receive the API, I'm setting the attribute virus to false, and we will be changing this, playing with it, and sending the answer. That's all I'm doing. This is to simulate the API that I'm calling in this process group. Now, what's interesting is to look into the configuration of this process group. So if you right-click and click on configure for this process group, you have two things here. You have the process group FlowFile Concurrency, and you have the process group outbound policy. Those settings are working together. So the first one is by default is unbounded. That's the basically that's the default configuration, unbounded, meaning that as soon as flow files are available to enter the process group, those flow files are going into the process group. That's what we want. You have two other options here. There is single flow file per node and single batch per node. Those settings are not working at cluster level. It's really per node. So that's something to keep in mind. But that's fine in our case, because once the zip file is processed by one of the NiFi node, unless you are shuffling the data across your cluster, all of the files contained into that zip file will be processed by the same node. So we are fine in this case. So single flow file per node means that as soon as a flow file is getting into that process group, we won't allow any other flow file to go into that process group until all of the child and the original flow files have been processed. That's really what this is doing. And single batch per node is a bit different. It's assuming that you have many flow files in the input relationship to get into the process group. And you are going to let in all of the flow files in this process group. But as soon as the input queue to get into that process group is empty, we will block any other flow files to get in. So it's more like a batch processing in case you, for example, created all of the child flow files before getting into that process group. So it's another approach depending on the use cases you are dealing with. In our case, I'm going to use single flow file per node. But we can look into the other one later. Then you have the process group outbound policy. So basically, when you have flow files that are before the output ports of your process group, what are you doing with it? You have two options. You have stream when available. So as soon as a flow file is getting to the output port, we are letting the flow file go out. And you have batch output, which means we are waiting for all of the flow files within the process group to reach, to be in like before an output port to open all of the output ports at the same time. That's what we are going to use right now. You can click apply and that's it. Just to show how things are working, I'm going to stop this here so that we can go step by step. So here I'm going to run once. It's going to generate flow files, and here generated. So I created 50 files and zip everything together. So that's one zip containing 50 files. So I have one flow file here, and if I look at it, it's my zip file, okay, containing my 50 files. So that's what I have. Now, this flow file is in the process group. If I generate another one here, it's going to be blocked here. So this next zip file will be blocked out of the process group until everything has been processed in here. Okay, so that's what we want. Now, I'm going to stop everything so that we can do things step by step. So here, I'm going to unpack, so basically unzip. And here, I'm going to have my 50 files that were contained in my zip file. And here, I have my original zip file. And as you can see, it's blocked before the output port. That's because in the configuration of the process group, we said batch output. If it was stream when available, then the flow file would be out. So here, the original flow file is blocked here, and we'll be waiting for all of the other flow files to be either terminated or before another process group. Okay, so here, if I run, so here I can start this. Here, if I run my invoke HTTP once, one flow file went through and no virus detected. I can say run once, and since I'm always setting virus to false, this is going into no virus. And you can see those flow files are also blocked before the output port because we still have flow files here. So now if I go back to here and I change the configuration here to simulate the detection of a virus, and I start this again, and I go here, and I run this once. So now I have a virus detected here, and it went in this virus detected relationship. Okay, so now I will just go back here and set this back to false so that we simulate one virus among all of the files that were contained. So now I'm going to start this, and it's going to go very quickly. All of the flow files will go in no virus. We will have one in virus detected, one in the original. So all of the flow files will be before an output port. So we are going to let everything go out. So if I start this here very quickly, we can see that data is being processed. I forgot to restart here. And I go back here. So everything is being processed very quickly here. And that's it. And actually, as you can see, because everything went out here, we actually let the other flow file that was waiting before the input port in. So that's why we have 2 here, 100 here, 100 here, because in the end, since everything was going out here, we let the next one get in. Okay, and now we can see here that we have the true original zip files. We have 1 virus detected, 99 files with no virus, and we didn't have any failure. Now, what's super interesting is that if I look at the original flow files and I look at the attributes of those flow files, I can see here how many flow files from this original flow file went into the relationship. So for this original flow file, this zip file, I had 50 files with no virus and 0 file with virus. If I look at the other one, I have 49 files with no virus and 1 file with virus detected. So here I'm able to have like special handling of my zip file, my original zip file, depending on the values I have here on my attributes. If there is a failure at the antivirus level, I will probably send this file for layer reprocessing. If I have a failure for unpacking this zip file, it means that there is probably some very specific processing to expect for it, because it's probably something really weird that someone will not be able to unzip anyway. So probably something to look into more carefully. And then depending if we have a virus or not, you would probably want to have special handling as well, like sending alerts, updating a database, whatever. So that's really what we want. The ability to have those attributes added to the flow file is only because you set the configuration here as batch output, because we know how many flow files we have before each one of the output ports when we are releasing everything together. Okay, so here, if I empty all queues here, and I'm showing you another possible configuration. Let's say I'm going to stop this here. And in the configuration of the process group, this time I say stream when available. So now it's stream when available. And here, it means that in this case, I can run once here. And here we can see that the original zip file has been sent out of the antivirus process group immediately, even though we still have the child flow files in the process group. And if I start this, we are streaming flow files out immediately. So here we have the 50 flow files here and one original here. But if I look, sorry, list queue, if I look here now at this flow file, I don't have the attributes. So here I'm not able to have like some specific handling of this original flow file based on the results of my processing. So that's interesting. This use case is interesting when you want to make sure that one file is processed at a given time in this process group. But if you want to have some specific handling based on what happened on the child flow files of this one, then you want the batch output. Okay, now very quickly, I will show you the other configuration where we say single batch per node and stream when available. So it's another. So I will start everything here and stop this here and stop this here. So it's a very different pattern, but I just want to show it to you very quickly. So I will empty all queues here so that we can start with something clean. So here I'm going to generate 2 zip files. So the batch is really, as I said, a different approach. It's a different mindset. In this case, we imagine that here we are receiving many files, and we want to let all of those files get in at the same time. But once it's empty here, we won't let anything else go in until all of it has been processed. So it's really like a batch processing of a specific data set, let's say. So here in this case, I have 2 flow files here. And if I start things here, this is going in. As you can see, everything is being processed here. But if I try to run once here, it's going to be blocked here because we let all of the batch of flow files go in the process group. But now we will wait until all of the flow files in here are out before we let the next ones go in. And if you remember, in the configuration, we said stream when available. So in this case, we will let the flow files go out as soon as they are available. So I let one go through, and you see it went out, etc., etc. So that's really the use case. It's a very different mindset for a different set of use cases, but I also wanted to show you this. You can obviously also configure here batch output, this is perfectly fine as well. And you would also get the attributes added to the flow file, just so that you can have some statistic across a set of flow files. So let's say you had a bunch of flow files that you let in the process group. You are doing processing on those flow files. And then when, like if you want to keep the original flow files and have like specific processing on those original flow files, you could do it and you will get statistics on all of the, across all of the flow files that have been processed in the batch. But again, it's only when you use the batch output that the attributes will be added, giving you the information about how many processors went out for each one of the output ports of the process group. This is really useful. So that's it. That's what I wanted to show you. I hope you like this pattern and you can apply it in your use cases. I do think this is a much easier way to implement those use cases compared to the wait notify processors. Thank you for listening, and see you next time for the next video. Thanks.